Hello and welcome back to another episode of ZNN,
yes,
man.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
We're back
yes,
in
sir.
the studio. Here we go.
Back in the studio, man. Y'all already know what time it is. This is another installment of ZNN Podcast. You guys are showing so much love for it. And today, we have a very special guest. Can we give it up for Mayor Crow, ladies and gentlemen? Yes. We got you.
How you feeling, Mayor Crow, for today?
I'm glad to be a part of ZNN today.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Guys, we'd just like to say before we start, we really appreciate you for coming out and taking your time, because you guys don't even know, he's a mayor and also he owns a bunch of Great Clips. Like, he's literally such a busy man, and for him to come out, we really appreciate
and
you.
just show support to two college students, like that's
Real.
man, that really means a lot to us. That really does. I know you've taken a lot of your busy schedule. I know you've flown places and done a lot of things. We just really want to say thank you, like seriously, like so much.
And make sure you guys show some love, like, comment, and if you haven't done it, hit the bell. It takes like 2 seconds.
2 seconds, man.
Literally 2 seconds.
And all our socials are in the Discord. Now, to our special guest,
Exactly.
Mayor Crow. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and like who you are, you know, what you do?
Yeah, flex on us. We saw your Gucci shoes. Flex on us real quick.
Oh yeah, I do have on my Gucci shoes. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Got to.
You got to snap when you're on campus. You know.
He knows.
The good thing for me, I have 2 kids who are in college as well.
Okay.
So to me, this is kind of if everybody gives back, everybody helps. Kind of makes it all a little bit better for everybody who's coming after you.
Right.
And so am I. And when I spoke at university a few weeks ago, it's kind of nice to get the follow up and to get to see you guys, talk to you, and then whomever may be out there listening. But where would I start on this? Well, I just got reelected as mayor.
Wow! Congrats.
It's kind of hard to lose when you're unopposed.
He's the best of the best, man. Come on.
The last time I ran, I was unopposed, so I think that maybe no one wants this job other than me. But,
Right.
But mayor of University City, which is a great place to live,
Mm-hmm.
a phenomenal place. So if you get a chance, come over. The Memorial Day run is this weekend, and we have and Del Mar and the Loop is shut down on Saturday for concerts in the Loop.
Okay.
So everybody, come on over. It's my little plug for our community.
Okay, yeah.
Mayoring does not take that much time because we have a great city manager who really runs our city on a day-to-day basis. And then the rest of my time is spent owning and operating a number of Great Clips salons in St. Louis and in Tampa and in Orlando.
Oh, Florida Great Clips.
Those are the 3 markets that I'm in.
Okay.
And I've been in this business now with Great Clips for I think 16 years.
16.
Wow.
16 years. Yes, started by buying 12 of them in St. Louis, and then just kept acquiring them in St. Louis. At one point in time, you couldn't get too big, so they asked me if I would buy some in Tampa, so I bought some in Tampa, and then I couldn't buy any more in Tampa, and so the Orlando market is next door to Tampa, so the word would be contiguous in the company rules. And so I had the chance to then buy a number of them in Orlando.
Okay.
COVID took its toll
of
on our
course.
business, like for everybody else. I would also tell you, though, that people like me probably survived COVID much more easily than the folks who work for me. My stylists, who had a much harder time of making it through and had masking, literally 8 hours a day and additional steps, and people yelling at them for wearing masks, people yelling at them for not wearing masks. And so it's probably been a challenging time for everyone.
Yes.
I know it probably was for you guys as well, and learning took a different twist as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
it definitely was.
Zoom was horrible. I mean, you know what? I'm not even going to say it was that bad, because, you just get to wake up and then you put the camera on and then you might
I didn't put the camera on.
You didn't put the camera on?
I didn't put the camera on.
I put the camera up, but I put it so that you could just see my forehead. So, I was kind of participating. But, I mean, so COVID definitely did a lot for us, but I think it also opened a lot of doors,
Yes.
because, a lot of things we can do electronically and stuff. But also, like, for me and Zion, that was kind of when we started thinking about, okay, maybe we could do some videos. Maybe we could do that, because that's all we did all day.
Correct.
Yeah.
So. Well, and for city council, we went remote as well. So the interesting thing was how different the communication was, because citizens really could watch us but they couldn't engage. So they would give their comments in writing. So what is a 2.5 hour meeting went down to probably an hour or an hour and a half by Zoom because the citizen comments weren't there. We opened back up some time ago so citizens can come. But really, not many of them don't come. I don't know if it's necessary that they've changed their habits. I don't know. Maybe the city's running okay. Whatever it is, we do still have pretty good viewership for what I would consider to be a pretty boring Monday night meeting. Anyway,
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like boring. I like boring when it comes to city meetings.
I mean, that has to be a tough job, though. I mean, you're
Yeah.
in politics. You're the mayor of a whole city. Like, what kind of responsibility does that entail?
And also of Missouri, and we know
Yes.
everything that's going down in Missouri,
Yeah.
everything that's been happening. So like, yeah, like how tough is it to like carry all that responsibility?
Well, I think ours is a little different in that I think we all recognize that we live in Missouri, which is a very conservative state, but yet University City is probably known as one of the single most progressive cities in Missouri. Very, very, very progressive. So probably a little bit more of a melting pot than most of the suburbs of St. Louis, which is kind of fun for us. And you know, we have our fair share of disputes and arguments. We've got an awful lot of folks who are involved in all the universities, so I think you've got a lot of folks who are engaged in our community. We've also got a lot of economic diversity. If you think about University City, if you know, whether you talk about Olive or you talk about Del Mar, the housing crisis, the houses south of Del Mar have just exploded in value. The houses between Olive and Del Mar have really recovered and then exploded as well. And then the area north of Olive, which is more economically challenged, is now coming back, but it's taken an awful lot longer for those homes to come back. And in the interim, a lot of folks came in, and when people were losing their houses during the mortgage crisis, a lot of our single-family homes were converted to rentals because investors came in and bought them. And typically rentals people who rent don't take care of their properties or the landlord to the extent that someone who is a homeowner does. So the northern part of our city has probably struggled a little bit more, and that's one of the reasons you may or may not know that we have a Costco that is going in.
Right, yeah, I remember hearing about
Olive
that.
and 170, which is it was controversial. It's probably not. I think controversial may even be a little bit strong. We had folks who clearly were not in support of it, but the vast majority of people wanted it. It's probably the last Costco site that's going to come into St. Louis, and University City being so liberal, that was probably the only big box retailer that probably would have been acceptable to our community. We're probably not a Walmart community. We're probably not a Sam's community,
Right.
not a Home Depot, but a Costco, which by the way pays incredible wages. You get a 401k and healthcare on day one, even if you're part-time employee. They hire from they're going to do hiring from our high schools and from our community.
Right.
And so we're very excited that, and if you get a chance to drive by, the building is on its way up and should be ready by at the latest by October.
Tell them to bring me my money.
Wow.
That's dope.
That's what's up.
I don't think I answered your question. I don't know.
No, you definitely
Oh,
did.
definitely. I mean, who doesn't like Costco? I
Hey, shout out to the food stand. That's the best part of
the
Costco.
samples.
Yes, oh my gosh. I love Costco.
I heard it's the pot pies. Everybody tells me it's the whatever it is. I have to get my Costco membership. So
Yes, yes, you do.
I probably would be first in line. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm about to say that.
I think you should be the one cutting the ribbon. You're like,
For sure. Yeah, but my next question for you. So, what is your what are you trying to stamp on University City? Like, what type of impact are you trying to make for the town and even maybe for Missouri?
Sure. We University City was created back in the early 1900s by a guy named E.G. Lewis, and it was really designed to be a bedroom community. It was designed for people simply to live there and then go out to work. And we bordered lots of Washington University.
Yeah.
So Washington University is a great neighbor, can be a challenging neighbor, but a great neighbor. It's kind of like the Webster here with the,
Right.
you know, it's a pretty great relationship, but every now and then you kind of got a hitch in your get along.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we've tried to do for our school system in particular is increase our tax base, because this is not just blamed on WSU at all, but when a charity, but WSU in particular, buys a piece of property, it comes off the tax rolls, so that property tax isn't then going to our school district.
Right.
So the property taxes then are split by the rest of the households. So we need another way for tax revenue. So we had at the intersection of Olive and 170, the developers put together 52 acres, which is a pretty huge site
Right.
for mid-county St. Louis. And our whole goal there is to literally diversify our tax base for our citizens. We'd like for people, simple like the folks in Brentwood, we'd like for people to be coming to our Costco and the other anchors that are going to be there versus going to Brentwood and Eager Road
Right.
for Target and Deerbergs and
Mhm.
name everybody else. It's an odd system we have in Missouri and actually across the country where different cities almost compete
Yeah.
with their tax dollars to get a Costco to come in or whatever the case may be. That would be a great challenge to get addressed at some point in time, but we're sort of all playing by the rules that we've got. I think it's key in our particular case. We thrive on the diversity that is in our community.
Yeah, for sure.
And if anything, we almost worry a little bit about it because economically, University City is getting much more expensive to live in. Even I think in many cases you'd say the houses that used to be owned by professors aren't owned by professors anymore. They're owned by doctors, lawyers, business people, all good, but the prices really have gone up.
Of course.
So we try to make sure that there's still affordable housing in University City. We're getting our first hotel. There's going to be a hotel in the Loop right by the old Cicero site. There was an old school that they bought called Del Mar Harvard, and half the school came down, and then the other half is being rehabbed for part of the hotel, and then there's a new part of the hotel as well.
Okay.
So
Sick.
That's dope. Like you said, you've been through the pandemic and stuff. Where's like some of the biggest challenges or like complaints that you had as a mayor during the pandemic? I know that must have been kind of hard.
You know, it's interesting. I think everybody actually, for the most part, did pretty well during the pandemic. We had a couple of times when particularly our fire department, first responders had COVID just raging through, which was challenging. We have something that many of the communities have, and they probably have it here in Webster too, but we have what's called mutual aid, where all of us help each other out. If our ambulances are busy, Ladue comes in or Clayton comes in or whatever. And that was, we all needed to do that as all the communities helping each other out. Our city manager did an incredible job right up front of making some very tough decisions regarding employees and shutting down facilities because we have an older population in University City. We also have, particularly an older African American population in University City, and there's definitely more hesitation there to get the vaccine.
Right.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And so if there was a theme that ran through the complaints, if you will, it was a little bit that we kept we call it Centennial Commons, our community center where there's basketball courts, gymnasium, meeting rooms. We kept that closed for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
When some of the communities around us opened theirs up earlier, and frankly, the distinction was, I mean, since we're next door to Clayton, a lot of times it is, why is Clayton open? Why is Richmond Heights open? Well, there's a different demographic in Clayton, Richmond Heights, and University City. And in particular, the older African American population really did hesitate much more on getting the vaccine. And I understand exactly why, but our city manager was pretty clear that he was very concerned about opening the facilities back up. Not for for the citizens, of course, but also for the employees as well. And I think I kind of take that one as a pretty minor complaint.
Right.
I mean, I really do. Fire worked all the way through, police worked all the way through. Our businesses in the Loop, we went to them and we said, what do you need? Because the Loop is kind of the downtown of University City.
Yeah.
And so we literally made all the parking free. And we gave everybody pretty much unfettered access to the parking spots to put outdoor dining in. So we've still got that. We've kept the outdoor dining, and frankly, I don't know if you follow this in New York City. New York City, the restaurateurs are pretty much saying we want outside dining to stay. So how does this work? And we're seeing that now in University City. We're seeing an awful lot of our restaurants saying, okay, can we do this? How do we do this? Because we've got concrete barricades up right now. It doesn't look very good. Probably needs a little bit of a beautification, if you will.
Renovation, yeah.
But also the folks who are going out have much more of a comfort of outside versus inside now. I think that may change when it's 100 degrees out.
Right.
But anyway, and also for us too. And the other thing during COVID, I'll say is, when WashU shuts down, we feel it.
Yeah.
because the students go home.
Right.
And when the students go home, that truly impacts what is happening in the loop and places around it.
Of course.
So everybody took a bit of a hit. I mean, I think you guys would say it too. It was kind of an eerie feeling at times that you
Yeah.
really were, in my case, work in my house. You could not leave you didn't have to leave your house if you didn't want to leave your house. You could just do everything there, and there was nothing happening anyway.
Yeah.
Particularly in
Not
the
even
beginning.
sports on TV either.
Yeah, there was
so-
there was
Yeah.
nothing going on, and then you go out fully masked up. I just did a trip to Europe last week, and it was amazing that it was just because of time. It was the first time to be on an airplane without masks,
Right.
Oh yeah.
and throughout without the airport, and then flying back to the U.S. It was the only place when I was flying back that you have to get a COVID test the day before to get back in the U.S.
Right.
So kind of interesting.
Wait. Okay. You were in. Italy?
I went to Italy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
How was it?
Fabulous.
Fabulous.
What'd you do in Italy?
Well, I was at my best friend and I from college.
Okay.
Literally my best friend of 40 years. We both turned 60.
Oh.
That's gonna be
And
us.
Yeah.
60. You're not a day over 40.
You
man.
got a few
Come
years.
on.
You got a few years to wait. And so we really had an incredible trip. But the key to we were in Venice, which is the city of all the canals.
Yeah.
So the history is incredible. But the weather was stunning. It didn't rain the entire time we were
Wow.
there.
What?
It was mid 70s. And Venice has sort of been taken over by the cruise ships, and no cruise ship. There were 2 cruise ships the whole time, which is not very many. So there weren't a lot of American tourists. Most of the people actually there were Italians who were on brief vacation, a smaller vacation. So most people complain in Venice about the crowds. There's just too many people around, and it just wasn't the case. It was incredible.
Wow.
And this was also I like art. This was called the Vias Biennale. It was the first one since COVID. It's an art show that goes on for 9 months to a year, and they have one main complex where every country has a different display, and then some of the more prominent artists have their own location. So in this case, Kehinde Wiley, who I absolutely love, had an entire building on one of the separate islands where you took a boat over and got a chance to see his artwork.
Okay, I like it, Picasso.
Wow.
Dang,
So
man.
anyway, it's cool, very cool, very
amazing.
very lucky.
Hopefully CNN gets some money and then we can go to Europe. You know what I'm saying?
Hopefully we
Like,
get sponsored by Great Clips or something. I'm just
hey,
saying.
man,
I'm just saying.
hey. Nike, sponsor me, please.
Nike, hey.
Nike Canes.
They know what's up. Man, that sounds amazing, man. That's some of the experience
Good
you've
trip.
had.
Good trip.
Yeah.
Man, so for students like us, we're starting from the bottom, you know what I'm saying? We've had a lot of experiences. Obviously, we're trying to do our own thing. We're trying to get out there. What would you say would be a good starting point to get to a point where you are to try to get there? Like, what advice would you give somebody that's trying to start their own business or start their own brand?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I try to say to everybody is whatever your parents and your teachers that you had in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade told you are probably many of the rules that you need to follow for the rest of your life.
Okay.
And a lot of the rest of it is knowledge, which I've been very fortunate to have a great education I'm one of those guys who could probably tell you every teacher I had from kindergarten through high school. But we lived in a small community, tiny town in Northeast, so you knew everybody.
Right.
But my point in saying that is that there are so many people that I hope for most folks, and I realize not everybody has this opportunity, but have folks who are vested in them and are just trying to guide you the right way. And it is the simplest thing of being nice to those around you, remembering to say thank you. And I was at Edward Jones for a long time, and one of the things that we always said was, if the deal is good for you and for me, I don't have to get the last dollar on the table. I think somehow we've lost that an awful lot in business, and that is that you've got to get that last dollar. And we have grown my particular company now mostly by acquisition. And everyone, after you do a deal, everyone comes back and says, well, what do you think? What do you think? Did you pay too much? My goal has always said, if it's a fair price for the seller and a fair price for me, then I probably didn't pay too much. Now, have I made mistakes? Absolutely. The difference for you guys, and this is becoming more apparent to me as I get older, it is that when you start out, you don't have any room for error because you usually don't have a deeper pocket to grab into and say, oh, I made a mistake, let's just keep going.
Right.
Let's do something else. Because when you're starting out, that pocket just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right.
So now if I make a mistake and buy some salons that don't work out, my shareholders will be like, well, okay, we did okay. We didn't do very well on that one,
Yeah.
but we hit a home run on this one, and this one.
Right.
And so I don't want to say it covers for your mistakes, but it allows you to make a mistake. When you guys are starting out, you really don't have as much of a luxury
Right.
to do that. And so part of it is then you do have to balance that caution to where you don't make the mistake. Also with the excitement of, I know this is a good idea and how do I implement it? And that has to be frustrating for you because you've got this implementation that you want to do, but yet the cost is over here. There's a guy, I don't know if you follow, he's doing a program at WashU in film, and he's shooting a film, and it is about a young African American superhero, superhero interview, but who travels through time.
Okay.
And he does these updates, and it's fascinating to me that he's done this movie. I think he said it when he posted yesterday. Total cost so far is $8,000. And I'm just trying. And this is with actors. This is with cameras. This is with all the equipment. I'm sitting there going, that's pretty impressive for someone to have found a way. Now my guess is still the same. He's probably got some WashU backing, like you guys would have at Webster with equipment and things like that.
Right.
But for someone to do that, you're not going, that's pretty good. So technology is making some of this a little bit easier. It also may be making some of these spaces more crowded, though, to where you don't get the attention. So your generation, I don't mean this in a parental way, but your generation seems to have a different driver than mine and the one between us. In that my generation's goal was to probably do as well or better than my parents, and it was just to work, make more money, do. Then you step back. Like in my business right now, my newer stylists that I bring in, they normally don't want to work more hours. They would rather say, here's how much money I need, here's how many hours I'm willing to work, and the rest of the time is for me.
Yep.
And so instead of wanting to go from 35 hours to 40 a week, they'd rather say, no, I want to go from 35 down to 30 or whatever the number is, because I'm only working so I can pay my bills.
Right.
I'm not working to necessarily make more money and do more of this. I'm not sure when that's going to change. I don't know if it even does change, but my business model probably has to change. If you think about it, we'll compare us to Costco, which is an easy one. I have 401ks and I have health care, but you have to be a full-time employee.
Right.
The vast majority of my employees are not full-time. So they're part-time, so they don't get 401k, they don't get health care. But if more and more of my employees are going to become part-time, do I need to switch my plans up
Right.
to where I can get more and more part-timers, but they get some more benefits? Think about it, most of mine are most of my stylists are women, and many of them are mothers, and many of them are single mothers.
Right.
So they have a need for that, but because the way the plans work right now, it's only full-timers.
Right.
That's kind of a long-winded answer, but I think the businesses are going to have to adjust to the dynamic of your generation right now is not necessarily wanting full-time employment and making more money. It's a little bit more about a quality of life issue,
Right.
and less time.
Yeah, and that's the one thing my mom always tells me. Like, it's like you guys don't have like the work ethic that we had, because like my mom, she wasn't like from the richest family, but she was like, I'm gonna work, I'm gonna go to college, and I'm gonna make sure that I give my kids a better life.
Right.
And now we have that better life.
Yep.
So it's not like we have to, work to pay the bills, and we have to work to do. So we just don't have that like necessity.
to live. You got to go get your own because it's already taken care of type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's just from our perspective. There obviously is still people like that out there and stuff.
Like us.
Yeah, like
'Cause
us.
we hustle.
We definitely hustle. Everything we do is because of us. Yes, we do what we
Yeah.
need to do, man.
It's tough.
It's tough, but we want to get there. We have a steady mind, and we keep going no matter what. And we've created a brotherhood. We found each other. We both have
Sure.
the same mindset. So
Well, and it's important that you have each other to balance and to push ideas off on each other.
Oh yeah.
And so you sort of, if you're going to embarrass yourself, you're at least embarrassing yourself with just one person
exactly,
before
Yeah.
you go out in the public. So
Yeah, for sure.
and that's a lot more than a lot of people can say. Some people don't have each other's back seriously.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's correct.
So we're always bouncing each other like
Mhm.
ideas and stuff, and sometimes like you're like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, but like it works. It works.
But you will when you get the opportunity later on in life to look back, you will have you will realize that you will have had just as much fun right now as you are when you're my age and getting to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Because clearly I understand I get to have a nice life, but I also look back at the times when you're kind of going paycheck to paycheck, and you were going to that ATM just to pull out money. You're trying to make sure how much was in it,
Yeah.
because you weren't sure you were going to have enough that night either to go out or whatever you were going to do. So, and I'm so old, there weren't cell phones, so
Right.
it was an interesting thing. We all kind of take that for granted, which again comes back to how much technology has
Yes.
changed for us.
How do you feel about that? Actually, let me ask you about that because I'm kind of weird. I feel like we're the last generation that gets to experience stuff like that. Like we are like early 2000s babies, so we're like the last generation. I feel like they got to experience VCRs and how to record, and you actually have to catch the show when it comes on and not record. I feel like
we were actually outside till the lights
Exactly,
were on,
exactly.
and like
and I feel like the newer generations, like my cousins, they don't know anything about that, and I feel like that's missed a part of life because everything's on their phone or
Correct.
Instagram, Snapchat. How do you feel about
Well,
that?
I think what I have noticed is that, and Europe is an easy example. When I was in Europe, I never turned the TV on once because I had my iPad with me, and it already loaded all the programs I wanted to watch while I was there. So it was kind of all taken. I do think that the sense of camaraderie that maybe we all had as a family or even as friends, if you were sitting there, even if you were watching some movie at someone's house right now, every one of you would have your phone in your hand.
Right.
yep.
And I'm guilty of it too. I remember looking at a group of folks the other night at dinner, and there were 8 of them at dinner, and all 8 of them having dinner together were all looking at their phones. And by the way, I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah.
I think that sense of community that pendulum may have to swing a little bit. The flip side of it is, and I'm going to be very old school on this, is I will tell you this. One of the smartest things you can do still as you enter the business world is to still write a thank you note. And I know to everybody who's listening, they're going to say, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that. But I will honestly tell you that idea still has an impact with every person that you deal with. And most of the time when you either ask someone for money or for an investment or for advice, 9 times out of 10, they're the person you're going to go back to at some point in time for it.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to go back to that person if you left a good taste in their mouth when you asked them first. Even if they turned you down, it's great still to just say, by the way, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for when I ran for office this last time, we have I was fortunate to be able to raise a good chunk of money for a race that didn't really materialize, but maybe that was part of why it didn't materialize. But every time I've run, there's just simply a protocol that I write a thank you note to everybody who makes a contribution, and I do it still by hand. And not everybody does that, and I get it. That's perfectly fine. But I'm just saying there is a little bit more of a memory for people
Right.
if you do
It's
that.
thoughtful, and you
Yeah,
like took
Correct.
the time out of
You
your.
took the time.
Exactly.
And it also makes you stand out.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming most of the time, it's not a judgment, but most people either send an email, send a text,
Yeah.
or do nothing, by the way. One of those 3. And the do nothing is probably the worst part. I got my first big job when I was brought to St. Louis, and it came through a company that I had turned down a job from before. And when the guy called me and offered me the job, he said, one of the reasons I'm calling you is how you handled it when you turned us down the last time. And there was a 5-year gap. And he said, because you turned us down and you handled it so well, I've followed your career.
Wow.
And if you'd stayed with us, we probably wouldn't be making this job. If you'd come with us, you probably wouldn't be getting this job opportunity with us now, because you wouldn't have had the experience that we think you need to take this next step. So, just so you know, to me, these circles come back around, and I think it's very important to remember, because again, you're going to come back to that person most of the time. Your circle can always get bigger. In my case, easy example, whenever we do another deal and we needed to make another acquisition, we really don't go get new people. We go to the people who've already invested and say, it's kind of like a right of first refusal. Do you want in?
Right.
Do you want? And luckily, they always want in. And so the circle doesn't have to get bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway.
What adversities have you had to go through in making it to becoming the mayor, and also in becoming, such a prolific
This
business
person
owner?
in general, and who you are, like how's it been?
Well, I think I always want to say that no matter what adversities, I'll say I have faced, but I think most people, someone has always faced an awful lot more.
Okay.
I think you always have to go at it with that. I think I even may have said it when I spoke at the college not too long ago. I grew up pretty poor, but we didn't even know we were poor until I got to college. And then you kind of like, wow, we're poor. And then you just realize, okay, these folks have more money, more experience, whatever. And so my goal then, by the way, I would tell you at college, my goal was to not only get a great education, but to pay attention, particularly to the kids from St. Louis who had done a lot more than me.
Yeah.
Right.
And to learn from. So I really did become quite a sponge. I really did. Law school was the first time that really I encountered then people that were not just as smart as me, but far smarter than me. So that was kind of a little bit of a comeuppance, if you will, for me.
Yeah.
In my adversity, I think now we would say that the adversity that I faced back in the 80s, at that time clearly was an adversity, but now I think it's kind of taken a stride, and that was when I came out.
Okay.
When you come out as a gay man in the mid 80s, and AIDS is in full swing.
Oh yeah.
And people are dying, and their families aren't taking care of them because
Right.
they believe they were going to rot in hell. It created at that time, by the way, to all of us, it kind of created a sense of community because we had to take care of each other.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally had to take care of each other. And so it also then brought forth that conversation that everybody dreaded having, which was to then tell your parents or your brother and your sister and everybody that you were gay. But I also will say, sitting here talking to two black men, I will tell you that the adversity I faced is easy for me to hide half the time. You guys, it never is.
Right.
Yeah.
It never is. And in University City, one of my good friends is Byron Price, that was a city council member with me, and his son Emmanuel worked for me at one of my salons for a while. Now he's doing a great job down in Atlanta. But he said, Terry, the difference between you teaching your son to drive is you're teaching your son how to drive. I'm teaching my son how to drive and how he needs to act when he gets stopped.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's got to be that pause button for everybody to understand that there's an adversity out there that everyone faces that is far more serious likely than the one that I'm facing or that most people face. And so those challenges are out there. Again, I'll circle it back. On the LGBT thing, unless I'm missing it, most people under the age of 40 or 50 just don't care anymore.
Right.
Most people under the age of 20 don't even, they talk more about a spectrum and whether you're this or whether you're that. And the phrase LGBT may even go away at some point in time because it's really not that big
It's
of
like
a deal. It's
like,
just not.
whatever.
And now that, of the little political part of me, it bothers me immensely. I believe that during the 80s, frankly, the conservatives in particular went after the gays and wouldn't fund AIDS because it was an easy group and no one wanted to speak up for them.
Gotcha.
And now everybody does speak up for LGB.
Right.
LGB will do that. Now the T's, the trans, now particularly the trans kids are the ones that all of a sudden have become the punching bag.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're sitting here going, you got to scratch your head because I don't think that there's hardly a child, and I'll just use the state of Missouri. I don't think there's hardly a child in the state of Missouri that cares whether they are competing with a trans athlete or not, whether from female to male, male to female. I don't think the kids give one iota of who they're competing against.
That is a good question though, because I was in my sports culture class, and we were talking about like how women like transgender
Correct.
women, men transitioning to women.
Correct.
We compete. Sorry, I couldn't speak.
Correct.
But yeah, we compete in like we had people on different sides of the spectrum, and people were like, "Oh, well, I don't think that's fair because you got all these women
Sure.
competing and training their best, and then
What
somebody
if-
comes in
And then
transitions."
also, we were also talking about like, when are they? How far along are they? When
Correct.
does that become
Correct.
okay? You know, so
Correct. But my point in saying this is, I don't know that this is where the legislature needs to spend their time.
Yeah.
Because they're really, no offense, they're not doing this for some rightful policy reason. They're
Right.
doing this to gin up their base to get people to come out and vote. It's how many more conservative ideas can we come up with to get our base to come. And that's kind of one of those odd political things where people stopped talking to the people across the aisle and moving towards the middle, because a long time ago, there's a guy named Lee Atwater who said, we don't really need to attract new people to this. We just need to gin up our base. And so now there's this ginning up the base, both on the conservative and the liberal side, where you bring up the issues that bring your folks out, but it really does create a barricade of conversation with folks who don't agree. I really do have a hard time on the attacks on trans kids, because I think as adults, I think it's still unfair, but I think we're all adults. But when you're a child, and when you're now saying you as parents can be prosecuted if you send your child to a doctor because they're dealing with trans type issues.
Yeah.
You're kind of you're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater on this one.
Yeah.
And it just really, how much more do we have to go through with this?
right.
And so that part really does bother me. We can talk about Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood too, because the attacks on women right now are bothering me as well. So I'm a little bit on my soapbox here, but
Yeah.
No,
it's
I feel you,
it's
man.
just
100%.
I'm just in shock that we're women, if they are put in that situation, will find a solution. The sad thing is, it's not going to be a safe solution.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
And men, by the way, get off scot-free. And we have a group of men who are making legislation for women, and it has no impact on the men
Right.
at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the women are going to bear the brunt of this, and to me, in just a horrifying way. And there's not a person in the country that wants more abortions. There's not one person who would say, I want more abortions. But there should be a number of people that say, I want a woman to be able to have
That's
a right
exactly-
to
That's
Yes.
choose,
exactly what I.
and a safe provider. And by the way, do I want to minimize abortion? Of course I do. I think most people do.
No.
But for the woman, whatever the reason may be,
Right.
she needs to have access to that health care, because otherwise her choices are going to force her to do something that is unsafe. And then the same people who pass the legislation will not help raise that child with any type of support, because if anything, we've cut back on that. So
Because we were conversating about it too. I'm like, I just think that, in my opinion, like, there shouldn't be a reason why you're taking, like, nobody should be able to tell somebody necessarily
What to do.
because obviously nobody wants babies to die. Nobody wants
Yeah.
a baby to, nobody wants to take people's lives.
Nobody with a heart.
Yeah, exactly. But there should be the choice that you can safely take care of the kid. And I'm hearing they're gonna take away Plan B, and they're gonna take away condoms and
Yeah.
all this. I'm like, that's going to create a lot of problems for the entire world, for real, or I mean America, because
And
that's
then
where
they're
it
already
is.
talking about overpopulating, but then you do something like that as well.
Well, I think this is probably if you think about it, this is kind of the last ditch effort of the generation that's sort of in control, because they're kind of losing on so many other fronts.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you go back to the LGBT issue, so many people came out over the last 50 years that it's, you can't really say that you live in a bubble where you don't know somebody
Right.
who's gay. But the flip side of it is, because it is a woman's health care choice, no one knows that the person they're having dinner with went to Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't have to. But my
Yep.
point is, there is a face now on the LGBT community, and it's usually a family member that someone likes, or someone they're in business with, or someone that they enjoy. But you don't have that same personalization with people who have been to Planned Parenthood or had abortion services, because you don't know and you shouldn't know. But if you think about it, what is it? I'm not sure the exact percentages, so this is going to be off. It's either 25 or 35% of all people in America I'm going to say under the age of 50 have been to Planned Parenthood for some service. It is a huge number.
Right.
It's a huge number. And you just got to stop and say, okay, no, you're walking down the street. 1 in 4, 1 in 3,
That's wild. Yeah.
and yet the other 2/3 are saying you can't do that. Well, there's got to be some reason that they're going.
Right.
But we can't put a face on it. Now, by the way, when the Supreme Court decision got leaked and some of the members of Congress started telling their stories, you then finally had a face that was. But I think it is very unfair to women that we're forcing them to put a face on
Yeah.
this,
Yes.
Yeah.
because it was a medical decision that needed to be made or was made, and so I'm not sure how this saga ends. And it seems clear that the decision is going to come down from the Supreme Court. It seems clear that Roe v. Wade may fall, and then you got to figure out what happens next. Anyway, I probably took you guys a little bit.
No,
far.
you're
No,
good.
and I like talking about, and it's like, it's so crazy how social media has linked everybody in. Cause like I have all my friends, and you got high schoolers, and they're all talking about it. It's like, it used to be, I feel like our generation, we weren't really into politics. It was just like, whoever. But, once the Trump came in and like all this stuff, everybody's got an opinion now.
Yep. Everybody.
Like, it's crazy. to think.
Especially with stuff that just happened, like this recent shootings, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous, man. It's just heartbreaking, and we hate to see it all the time, and we still haven't made any changes,
Yeah, we the shooting occurs. We say our thoughts and prayers,
Yep.
right? We then have outrage on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing then happens, and then another shooting occurs, and we start to cycle over
Exactly.
again and again.
It's insanity.
Today, the weird thing was, I'm sure people would disagree with what I'm saying, but I was in utter shock when someone posted on social media today that the solution to what happened in Texas was that all teachers should be armed. And I'm just sitting there like, I can't fathom that's a choice.
Yeah.
When in fact, over the past 30 years, we've probably spent less money on mental health care for adults and kids and everyone. We just keep pushing these services down, and we're saying that this is all because the Second Amendment says you're supposed to have the right to bear arms. I scratch my head on this one.
Yeah.
I have 2 kids who I'm just extremely proud of and love to death. And the quote today was, when your kids put their backpacks on your chair, when they come in from school, there are 19 kids who aren't putting that backpack on that chair.
Man.
And you just have to stop and say, my gosh, we're the only country in the world that has this problem.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me. And yet, by the way, if we did another podcast in 6 months, we're going to be having the same conversation.
Yep. And that's
That
sad.
is so
Yep.
sad, dude.
That's-
Yep.
That's so
I
sad.
couldn't imagine. And how does that even help, man? That the teachers be armed doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because
how do you even feel safe?
Yeah,
How do
like,
you feel safe as a kid? And you walk into and you just see your teacher with a like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I think we're probably going to have enough turnover in teachers as it is. Oh, by the way, we'd now like you to go to a shooting range at practice, right? And then you've got a teacher that's got a gun. That to me is not the solution. There's got to be something
Yeah.
else.
It's gotta be something.
I will tell you though that I immediately walked. I go to the U City Schools events and things, and it is amazing to me. And even when you came out to pick me up here, the buildings are secure now, right? I went through I was trying to go through all the U City school buildings. Okay, when I go to the door, it's locked, and you got to be let in, and there's a security officer. So I get that. So I am trying to figure out a little bit what happened maybe in Texas, but I also hate the fact that this is a school that has 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and 4th grade, and yet it's got to have locks on it.
Right.
Got to have locks on it to keep the kids safe from somebody coming. And this, who knows what caused this man to do this? It's just, but the fact that he could literally and comes in with full body armor and a long rifle. You're like going, why?
Yeah. And nobody's
So
Like to think about it, like
that's not the most uplifting thing, but I can also tell you though that in life we have truly have our ups and our downs.
Yes.
And one of the first questions was about adversities, and the adversities we've all got to address. One of the things I'd say to both of you guys is, as you move forward with these broadcasts, it's great for you to give people a venue to exchange ideas, to listen, to disagree, and to try to get, and probably at times, hopefully, try to get people to maybe change their mind or improve the situation.
Yeah.
Improve it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I think that's what we need to do. People need to sit down and have those tough talks, have those
Yes.
hard conversations. And I feel like that's not happening enough.
Yeah.
We're doing it, but the people that are in power that are actually making the changes are not making any changes. They're not really listening to us.
Right.
And I don't know if it's for power. I don't know if it's for whatever, but I feel like there needs to be enough people to come up and say, this has got to change. Like the Constitution was made so long ago, and we're not making any revisions to it because, it was made from our founding fathers.
Right.
Like things have to change,
Yes.
in my opinion.
And that's better. You said everything you needed to say right there. All right. Now, we're running out of time, unfortunately.
Yes.
But Mayor Crow, is there anything you would like to ask us or get to know about us? We want to flip it back on you.
Yeah.
sure. I mean, well, I think probably what your listeners and viewers would like to hear too is kind of what's next for the two of you. What do you? I mean, we sort of talked a little bit beforehand, but you're going to become a senior, right?
Yes,
You're going
sir.
to become a junior.
Yeah.
So you're going to continue doing the podcast, but then once graduation starts to kick in or knock on the door, where do you want to take this, or what do you want your next chapter? How do you want it to be written?
Okay.
Only up. Only up. That's all I'm going to say. Only up, because after that, after graduation, obviously life comes, of course.
Yeah.
It's not going to be peaches and cream everywhere, but we're going to keep going. That's even better. I feel like once I graduate, I'll have more time because we're also athletes as well.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot of our time, and we're not as consistent as we want to be. But once, especially after one of us graduates, oh my God, videos, content, everything. I feel like it's just up, and I feel like we work so well, and our natural just aura to people and the way we bring people in will help us succeed and help us get where we want to go. Hopefully we own a Great Clips. We're
Just have some type of franchise. Yeah.
have some type of franchise, and we,
We're sponsored and everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully this is a way where we can make connections. This is really what this is for. We really want to be successful in life. We hate being average. We don't want to be average. We want to be successful. We want to be entrepreneurs. We want to break our family curses. We want to do everything right, and we want to do it our way, with a genuine heart, and just loving on people, bring people in, make them feel like a family, because we feel like a lot of people our generation don't do that. It's all a lot of hate and social media and all kinds of stereotypes and all that. So we just wanted to make a safe place where we can talk, with people, connect with people, all different types of people, So I feel like what's next for us is only up. ZNN Podcast is here to stay because there's a lot of love here. We have a lot of love invested in us, and we have very good backgrounds and backbones. So I feel like
and I think that doing this entire club and we just made a club at the school called the Content Creation Club, where we bring in everyone that does types of production, whether it's videography or it's animation or whatever. Everybody comes in and we work with each other to make events, activities, help people with their creation, and just it's like everything that we're trying to do is to bring smiles to people's faces.
Yes.
Because I feel like as we grew up, we were watching videos, we smiled, we laughed, we had great times watching Vine, and now we watch TikTok. We want to be those guys too. We want to we want to bring smiles to people's faces, educate people, with
we
podcasts like these, and
exactly. We want to make you laugh, but also educate you and show we have value, especially as young black men. We want to push that forward and show excellence in it, because we feel like a lot of people like us, we're unspoken for. So
But yes, we had such an amazing time on this podcast. Again, we really appreciate you, Mayor Crow, for coming out here and supporting the ZNN show and giving us so much amazing knowledge on just life in general. Because these things that we talked about, the topics, LGBTQ, all these different things that we spoke on need to be said. And I feel like with these podcasts, I feel like we can bring some awareness to some of these crucial topics that we talk about in everyday
Yes.
life. So
And it really helped that we got it from a mayor's perspective.
Oh.
This is
For real.
very rare. Not everybody gets, just walk up to a mayor and say, "Hey, can you be in our podcast?" Like two costumes. Like, we really appreciate you. Really appreciate you being here, giving us the opportunity to have this time with you, man. It's really been very important. And it's been very informational and intuitive for us, man.
for real.
So, without further ado, thank you for watching the ZNN podcast.
Of course.
This has been episode, I don't know, what are we on? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
I mean,
9, 12.
I mean, I feel like it's like necessarily the second because we haven't really been jobbing podcast.
Right.
But who knows which one it'll be?
All that
when we drop the
matters
other podcast. But
is that y'all back here. That's all that matters. That's
Mhm.
all that matters. We appreciate all you guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like button, ring the bell so we don't have to keep reminding you. Follow us on our socials, link down
Exactly.
below.
They know the drill.
They
They know the drill. The
They-
link tree. Just go with the link tree.
Nike,
and follow.
hey Nike, you not
Nike.
low.
Nike,
You not
look.
low. We need to be sponsored,
Shoes,
Nike.
Nike shoes.
Nike
Nike socks.
shirt,
Nike shorts.
everything.
Shirts, jacket.
Nike,
Come on,
Nike. You know the drill, guys.
Canes, I just
We
got your
need to
chicken
be
sandwich a couple days ago.
Hey, no, we still Chick-fil-A, bro. Come on, man.
I'm Canes though.
Bro, I need Chick-fil-A cookies for life,
wait,
man.
wait.
Come on.
Let's ask the mayor though. Let's ask him.
Yeah, okay.
Canes or Chick-fil-A?
You're asking a gay mayor about Chick-fil-A?
Oh,
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Really?
Canes.
Oh.
Canes.
You're right. I didn't even
Come
think
on.
about it. Oh,
Canes.
man.
Canes, hit me up, man. I'm right here.
He got that one. He got that one. But thank you guys. That's all the time we have today. Thanks again to Mayor Crow. We out here.
And also, come to his events. You just talked about the events,
he
the
did.
concert, everything. Make sure you
City.
guys pop out.
Shout out to U City, man. You in good hands, man.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank
Anyways, thank you, and make sure you get your good club from Great Clips. Come
Ah.
on, get your club from Great Clips as well, man. Anyways, any last words or anything for
We're
you?
good. Just remember, I wouldn't be here if he hadn't asked. So
Exactly.
you gotta
Ask questions.
Ask
Always
questions.
ask questions.
you. Make connections. They're good for you. All right.
Ask.
Thank you guys. We're really going to let you go. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.
See ya.
That's it.
Awesome.
Very good.
Very good.